Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM. Live from Boo Rays of New Orleans and Hudson Oaks, the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, with head coach Robby Jones, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Ball on the near hash for Gavin Beard, who works out of the shotgun. It'll be a play action fake to Guillory. He'll throw to the far side of the field. Pass is caught. Payne Martin first down inside the 20, inside the 15, man to beat to the 5. Touchdown, Aledo Bearcats. And Payne Martin, all he does is catch touchdown passes. That's actually 3 catches and 3 touchdowns for Payne Martin in his early start as an Aledo Bearcat. We welcome you to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast here at Boo Rays of New Orleans, with other locations in Lake Worth and Crowley. We're doing this podcast here, of course, in Hudson Oaks. I'm Kevin Lonnquist, and as always, we're brought to you by our other 2 presenting sponsors. That's H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. Number 1 and 10-1 Aledo into the 5A Division I Region 1 area playoff round, facing 8-3 Abilene on Friday. That'll be at Newsom Stadium in Mansfield. Hank FM with all of the coverage for you. The pregame show will start at 6:30. The kickoff is at 7 o'clock. As always, we'll start our podcast with Aledo head coach Robby Jones. We'll take a look back at the opening round 63-7 win over Chisholm Trail, and then look ahead to the Eagles, a rematch of last year's Region 1 championship game. And then in our second segment, we will be joined by national recruit wide receiver Kaydon Finley and linebacker Ben McElree. Huge year for Finley, over 1,100 yards rushing. McElree trying to match him in the touchdown count this year. We'll see how that goes throughout the remainder of the season. And so, Coach, let's talk about, the only way I could talk about Friday's game is just another efficient performance against a team that you clearly were more talented than, more efficient than, that sort of thing. It was another quick start, and that's nothing against these teams, but it's about sending a message that you don't want to let them hang around, and your team actually put the, if you will, the kill shot on them pretty fast.
Yeah, and that's what you want to do when you're out there against somebody that you're definitely better than. You want to go out there and put them away quick, and that way you can rest your starters and get some more people in and get them some playing time.
Now, I know we've talked about this for consecutive weeks now, 3 consecutive weeks. There's always that delicate balance of trying to get enough reps, because you're going to need them probably for as, you know, the deeper you go into the playoffs, hopefully. And you know, with your team being in the condition that it is at this point of the season, is that an overrated concern on maybe outsiders' part, or how do you view that?
No, I mean, I would like to have had our guys go out and get a few more series, but, you know, it was to the point where we needed to get them out. You know, we want to get them in, you know, all the way to the second half and get it a little bit going in the second half, just to keep their conditioning and make sure that they're focused up at halftime and get used to being focused at halftime and come out and get a series in. But we decided at halftime that, you know, it was, you know, enough out of hand that we needed to make sure that we stayed healthy and didn't risk getting anybody hurt when the score was the way it was.
Yeah, and I noticed that this has been going too the last, really, these 3 games, starting with Azle 2 weeks ago and then last week with Denton High, and then this past Friday against Chisholm Trail, where you were taking your starters out midway through the second quarter. That's been kind of going against the grain a little bit, but because these games have gotten out of hand so fast, your tradition has always been, even though it's a huge lead at the half, that your starters get 1 series, both sides of the ball, 1 series, third quarter, and then they're out. But because these things have moved so quickly, that's kind of how it's changed for you guys.
Yeah, and then also in every game except for the Azle game, we had already agreed that there was going to be a running clock the second half, so we might as well, hey, let's get our backups in and get them as many reps as we can.
Okay. Gavin Beard last week, another strong performance, 13 out of 15, 203 yards, a few touchdowns. What do you think is the greatest growth in his game that you have seen, maybe since Denton Ryan?
Maybe the fact that he's making the correct reads and getting the ball to our playmakers. I think, you know, he's got a crutch with, you know, getting the ball to Kaydon. Sometimes Kaydon might be a little covered, but Gavin takes a chance and throws it to him. And then, you know, what's the guy do? He makes one-handed catches and stuff like that. But, you know, I think he's done a really good job of operating the offense, staying within himself, not trying to do too much, and basically moving the ball down the field.
I think the one thing that's been interesting about this offense is how you had to somewhat restructure it, because, you know, last year you had Hoss Haney, who was a dual threat. Gavin, maybe not so much this year. He's more of a pocket guy, but it's about playing to strengths. So, but when you and your staff were going through this in the offseason, what were the points of emphasis of how you wanted to make sure that, okay, if Gavin's going to be this type of quarterback for us, we've got to make sure that we tailor everything to the offense so that we can make sure that he's as effective as he possibly can be?
Yeah, I mean, really the only thing that we've kind of taken out is a lot of the quarterback run game. So, we've had to rely heavily on our running backs as far as that is concerned. But, the pass game has pretty much stayed the same. So it's not a whole lot of difference. He can still make many of the passes that Haas made. And, we're making sure that we have lots of check down routes and things like that for him. And you've seen him take advantage of those and getting those to the running backs at times.
And the one thing about him is that I have noticed a little bit more of a comfort of him in these last few games of just being able to move around a little bit more in the pocket, even if it's a designed rollout or something along those lines, or even if he's getting chased, he can still get rid of it or whatnot. That seems to be more of something that, maybe at the beginning of the season, perhaps maybe not as comfortable, but he seems to be more comfortable with doing that now when he's feeling some pressure.
Yeah, in that first game, he was kind of playing hurt. His back was bothering him in that first ball game, and then we found out, after the game what was going on with that.
Right.
And so then he sat out a couple of weeks, and he's been fine since then. There's been no issues, with it, and we want to make sure that we continue with that. And I just think that, he's feeling more comfortable and he's feeling strong and he's feeling, no pain in the back, so it allows him to move around a lot more.
Yeah, and, at the time when this was going on with his back, there was the concern it's kind of a pain tolerance thing, but it seems like it's, as you just said a few moments ago, it's not been an issue since he returned after Lancaster.
Yeah, I mean, there's been no issue with it at all. And we can use him in the run game. I think in the Denton Ryan game you saw that more than you've seen it, in any other game. But, the kid can run. It's not like he's just this straight drop back passer and can't move. He can run. And we haven't used that. We haven't taken advantage of it very much. But, when we need to, we will use it.
And you have two running backs so that you can use at your disposal who can kind of make up for that between Ray and Kaydon Wingfield.
Yeah, and that's the big deal is, we can hand the ball off to those guys. And then also the fact that Gavin's done such a good job with the short passing game. And, and sometimes those short passes turn into long passes. But, that's just an extension of your run game. So
Sure.
as opposed to the quarterback running the ball, let's get the ball out to our athletes out wide and let them go make plays.
Seen a lot more of that pitch pass play that you guys have run this year. I mean, a lot more than what we've seen in previous years. And obviously, there's the talent to it because it started off with Blake Burdine, and then it's now kind of gravitated to other guys too. I mean, we've seen Kaydon be used in that formation too. But what's been kind of the idea of using that play more this year?
I mean, it's just, getting the ball to other people besides just the running back. So you're getting a little jet sweep with those guys. And, and we pitch it forward, and it counts as a pass, but that's just basically a little bit safer than the handoff at full speed. And, if they do drop it, then it's just an incomplete pass and not a fumble.
Yeah. Was that a strategic decision to do that, though, to make sure that you guys wanted to call that play that way rather than the handoff, as you said about the exchange, because it's such a timing thing for that latter one?
Yeah, and that's the deal is it's the timing of the play, and sometimes, and when we used to, do it as a handoff, we didn't do it as much as what we're doing this year, but and then a couple of years ago we went to the pitch, just to say, hey, look, we had a few issues with some handoffs, let's just pitch it. And if we drop the ball, then it's an incomplete pass instead of a fumble. So, yeah, it's just something that we've decided that we wanted to go to.
Kyle and I were talking in the postgame show last week about having 5 different receiving threats. And I think you really do, just between Finley, Blake, Jamal Hollister, now Bane Martin's emergence, and, of course, Ray Guillory. And how has that chemistry developed there to where you actually have 5 – I hate to say, for lack of a better word, legitimate, but really quality options out there for Gavin to throw to?
Yeah, I mean, and there's more than that as well. You also got to throw in Lincoln Tubbs with that, and then also Waldron Byers at the tight end position. So, we like our offensive personnel, and Coach Williams is doing a really good job of coming up with game plans to try and spread the ball around and make sure that all those guys are getting their chances to make plays.
Has Gavin reached a point where he could get to anyone at any time? Is that still kind of a work in progress with him in terms of distribution standpoint?
He feels comfortable throwing the ball to anybody, and I think he's shown that throughout the year. Now, of course, he has his favorite, and you're going to talk to him later. But he would be anybody's favorite. But he feels comfortable throwing the ball to anybody on the field.
Okay. Let's turn it over to your defense here. +7 in the turnover ratio this year. Another pick six that came from Alex Patton from 51 yards against Chisholm Trail. And the one thing I've seen about Alex during his growth during this year is that he's really turned into a dependable third corner for him. And you don't mind putting him out early in games. We saw him early against Rhyme. We saw him early against Richland. And you could use him at any time of that. And it's been fun to watch these types of kids kind of make their progression and feel comfortable and confident when they're out there, and they're so young too.
Yeah, I mean, he's talented. He's very talented. He's already got a few offers, and there's some more schools that are trying to get him on campus still right now, and he just is going through a learning process right now of learning our defense and learning how we want our defensive backs to operate back there. But he's picked it up really well, and we don't have any problem with him being on the field, and we've shown that through the year. It's just a problem when you have three guys that can be starters is getting all of them the quality reps that they need.
So when you're subbing him in, is that a case where you're looking at a matchup situation, a down in distance and field position situation, or what's been kind of the thinking about when you want to put him out there?
No, it's just basically Coach Reeves has a plan of when he's going to go in, and he just sticks with it, and he feels comfortable with him out there. So it's not necessarily, hey, we want him to go cover this guy, or we don't want him to cover this guy. It's just, hey, we want to get him in the game and get him reps.
Okay. As we look ahead now to Friday against Abilene, the Eagles easily won their opening round playoff game over El Paso Parkland this past Thursday, 84-0. They had a running clock in the second half of their game. But you've been looking at them for the last couple of weeks because there was pretty much this thinking that you guys were going to wind up playing each other anyway. I mean, this goes back to probably right after you all had beaten Azle. And then they lost their starting quarterback, Braden Henry, to a torn ACL. They're now being run by sophomore Tristan Beal, and he's put up some pretty good numbers. So what's been kind of your overall impression of Abilene since you've watched him for so many weeks?
They're a scrappy bunch, and I told the kids this on Saturday that, it's not going to be like the team that we played against Chisholm Trail. They're going to be a team that's a lot like us. They preach physicality. They get in the weight room and they lift weights constantly. So they're a program that's real similar to us as far as what they do. They're going to try to run the football, and then they'll set up the pass game with the run. So, and then they're very complicated offensively by formations. They just get in so many different formations. They run the same plays over and over, but they're out of so many different formations that they can get you misaligned. So our focus on defense right now is not only physicality, but making sure that we're lined up correctly. And Coach McComb spent an entire period on that this morning in the indoor. That was one of the good things about the storm this morning was it put us in the indoor facility, which changes our practice up. So he got to spend a lot of time on basically formation recognition and lining up correctly to formations. But they've got a really good group of players, especially their offense. They've got an explosive offense. I can't think of his name right now. Number 3, they'll use him. He's their main receiver, and he's their playmaker. And they also bring him in the backfield, hand him the football just to get the ball in his hands. And he basically won their game against Amarillo Tascosa. Amarillo Tascosa had the lead late in the game. Took a safety late instead of punting the football away, and probably 10 seconds, whatever, on the clock, and then Tascosa kicks him the football, and he brings it back for a touchdown and wins the game for him.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I want to go back to their offense real quick because of this change, because of the injury. So what do you think, because you saw them, or at least saw on film, on what Henry could do and now what Beal's doing, what are the differences in this offense?
The biggest difference is they're not doing as much quarterback run game. Kind of like what we said, with our change from Haas to Gavin.
Right.
That cat, the Henry kid, was lightning fast,
right.
And so they were using a lot of quarterback run game with him, and they're not doing as much as that right now. Now, the sophomore kid, he can run with the football, but Henry kid, that was one of the main things that he did, and that was one of the things he brought to the table. Last year, they used him kind of as a wildcat quarterback quite a bit last year. And I saw the play that he got hurt on, and it was a quarterback sweep play. So it changed him a little bit, and it's also brought 3 back into the backfield a little bit more than what he had been before.
And the one thing, too, about Henry is that he was, or still is, their second leading rusher with nearly 800 yards and has 11 touchdowns. But, of course, so that is kind of impactful with their running game. What I'm curious about, though, having said all this, since we saw this team last year in the regional finals, how different are they from last year, and how are they the same?
Schematically, they're the same. They're doing the same stuff defensively. Same front, same coverages. All of that's the same, and same thing with offense. And that was a problem we had with them last year. Offensively, was all the different formations that they would run. But they were a heavy senior group last year, so they lost a bunch of starters, and so. Especially on defense. Defense is what, the graduation hit them the most on. Now, offensively, they returned 4 out of 5 offensive linemen. So that's why you see, in their first few games that they were scoring a lot of points, but they were also giving up a lot of points because, the fact that they were inexperienced defensively, but offensively, when you got 4 of your 5 offensive linemen back, that makes it to where you're going to have an efficient offense right away.
Sure. And the one thing we'll talk about with their defense, because this year's team, in 6 of their first 11 games, or you can really say 10, I don't think you really want to count the Parkland game because of how bad that got, but they've allowed 6 teams to score at least 30 points against them. But last year's run, you talked about all the seniors on that defense. They were very opportunistic. They forced a bunch of turnovers, and that's really parlayed them to their regional final appearance against you. That's particularly the reason why they beat Ryan last year in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they were a really good defense last year, and like I said, it was a lot of seniors. I mean, they had 2 really, really good cornerbacks that could cover your outside receivers, and then, those guys were making lots of interceptions, and then they were also very physical up front. And their linebackers were creating lots of fumbles. So, yeah, I mean, when you lose all those guys like that, then, it makes it difficult the next year sometimes.
All right. So what do you hope, and, of course, without revealing any secrets, but what do you hope that you all can do against them to find some success?
I think we got to mix it up. We got to be able to run the football early. And then when you're able to run the football early, then that opens up the passing lanes for you.
All right, Coach, we'll look forward to it. Against the Abilene Eagles this coming Friday over at Mansfield's Newsom Stadium, 7 o'clock kickoff. We'll look forward to it. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.
All right. And we want to remind you that this podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Knife Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training. H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. Also by Hiley Mazda. Looking for a new ride? Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth has you covered. Right now, get $3,500 off MSRP or 0% interest for 36 months on the 5-star safety-rated CX-5 and CX-30. Hurry in. These offers won't last long. Experience top-notch service and unbeatable deals in their new state-of-the-art facility in Fort Worth. Or check out their extensive Mazda lineup at HileyMazdaofFortWorth.com. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Stick around. Second segment of the podcast coming up. We'll be joined by Kaydon Finley and Ben McElree. Well, right after this timeout. And the pass is thrown, and it's a little bit too high, and it's picked off at midfield. 40, Alex Patton at the 30. Blocker in front of him to the 10, to the 5. Did he stretch for the pylon and score? He did! Touchdown, Aledo Bearcats! And that is one of 4 defensive touchdowns for the Bearcats this year. They have 7 non-offensive touchdowns this year. So that part of the team starting to gel quite nicely. Thank you. Welcome back to the Aledo Coaches podcast show here at Bourrées of New Orleans in Hudson Oaks. Second segment will begin shortly here with our friends Kaydon Finley and Ben McElree. But first, the Aledo alumni report. Tyson Timms, the tight end who was on the state championship team last year, he's at Colorado School of Mines. He's redshirting this fall. But 2021 graduate Chris Wright is now an linebacker at Abilene Christian. Had a great year, 74 tackles, 3 sacks. He helped ACU to an 8-3 record, and they won the United Athletic Conference with a record of 7-1. He actually transferred from North Texas to Abilene Christian did right, and he had a great season, so congratulations to Chris Wright. I'm sure they'll be looking forward to wherever things are going to go for them in terms of the SCS playoffs coming up here. But again, Chris Wright over at Abilene Christian. Okay, now our second segment begins. We're joined by junior wide receiver Kaydon Finley, senior linebacker Ben McElree. Guys, thanks for joining us. All right. Ben, let's talk first of all with you with this defense. Of course, I just mentioned you heard the Alex Patton pick 6 there on the return. What's been the key for this defense just being so opportunistic? Because last year's defense, didn't have as many of these types of plays, but it seems like you guys have just, it's kind of the way a season unfolds. But what do you think has caused these situations to present themselves so that you are getting into the end zone on the defense?
I think it's everyone running to the ball and everyone hustling hard. We've been doing that a lot this year, and we've been making good plays out of it.
Okay, now are you going to catch this guy for the number of touchdowns? You've got 2, and he only has 16. So can you catch him?
Oh, I hope so. I don't think it's going to happen.
All right. For the year, Ben McElree with 38.5 tackles, 5.5 of those for loss, has created 2 turnovers, had a fumble return of 32 yards for a touchdown against Birdville, and then, of course, he had the interception, the big interception, too, against Richland. And I'm glad you're here to talk about that, because that was a big swinging moment in this. That led to the go-ahead score for you guys. But in that sequence against Richland, we'll go about this game where you guys had to rally and then won in overtime 49-42. Just take us through that sequence of the 3 turnovers that you caused, and, of course, your interception. Just take us through the turnovers and then talk about your interception there.
Yeah, they were spreading the ball out, and they were spreading everyone out, and they were moving fast, and our defense was tired. And I knew, one of us had to go up and make a play, and the first time when I stripped the ball, I saw the quarterback run out of the pocket, and when I tackled him, I just knew I had to pull. And thankfully it came out. And then on that pick, it was tied at that point, and when I got that pick, I just knew the game was in our hands at that point.
Okay, and of course, one of those plays, as we turn it over to Kaydon here, the one-handed catch. That's one of the stupidest catches I've ever seen in my life. But can you take us through that on that play down there on the far side of the field? Because I didn't think you caught it. In fact, no one's thought you caught it until they actually waved that you did catch it. And so just take us through that play, Kaydon.
So originally the play isn't really designed for the go ball. So and Gavin being Gavin, I anticipated the ball coming to me. I ran my route full speed, and I see the ball come in the air, and it's kind of far off, so I just go for it. I just stick my hand out, and I guess it just happened.
Yeah, and I guess you only need one hand to play this position now, not two, right? Okay, because the touchdown that you had against Denton High one-handed as you're streaking down the seam there, just take us through what you saw on that play.
Really, that's an RPO play, so Blake clears the safety out, and I run a little 5-step glance route. And so it seemed like Gavin got hit on the play. It was a great ball for getting smoked in the backfield, but it was a little bit high, so I tried everything in my power just to come down with the ball and just score. So I just stuck my hand out, and I kind of tipped it with my hand and then just caught it off my home and just took it off and ran it back.
For the season, Kaydon, 1,042 yards. He's caught 16 touchdowns. He's averaging 17.4 yards per catch. And so the growth in the game, just from where you guys are, obviously we can even go back to Denton Geyer for one, but I actually want to take it from Ryan, starting from that game there, because that's where that game and, of course, the Richland games were kind of like the games of the decision for the season and how it was going to go, the district championship, things of that nature. Where do you think the greatest growth in your individual game has come? I'm throwing this open to both of you, and I'm going to start with you on this, Ben.
I think we've learned not to start slow. We've started fast ever since then. I mean, the Denton Ryan game, we got behind, and it's good to know we could come back from something like that, but I think we're not going to do that again. We're going to jump out on a team as fast as we can and as hard as we can, first thing. Okay, and then for you individually, where do you think your game has grown? Where do you think you've matured just from maybe that Ryan game? Being more patient. I mean, just watching gaps better and being more slow, because I feel like I always used to be like really fast, and sometimes it would hurt me, and now it's just like watching film over the Denton Ryan game, I've slowed down, and it's helped me progress a lot. Okay, then what about for you, Kaydon?
Yes, sir. My individual game from the Ryan and Richland game has really improved from standpoint of getting open on press coverage, getting open on double corners, stuff like that. And it's also helped me just to stay patient and trust my teammates around me. And just know that if I do my part, that they're going to do their job and we're going to come out on top.
Okay, so for you, how many percentage-wise, if you could name the number of times that you've been double covered this year or drawn, or even a safety over the top, what would you say the percentage has been this year?
To be honest, I haven't really gotten double coverage. Well, it all started. Shoot, I don't even know how much games into the season, but I remember Denton Ryan was my first game that I was really, really heavily covered on, especially when I was singled up into the boundary or just singled up on side by myself. I was heavily double teamed and watched by the safety in corner. I remember pre-snap, I would look at the safety and he would be staring straight at me, so I knew that I would have to do something. And I came up with a plan before I came off the ball. Yes, sir.
All right, so the physicalness, how much have you changed as far as being a more physical receiver? Because if everything goes the way everyone hopes it does around here, that you could be seeing Ryan again in the fourth round of the playoffs, state quarterfinals, and you're going to get a physical. What do you think's changed from you, at least being more physical receiver?
Yes, sir. So I just go out there with a mindset that I'm going to beat this corner. That's my mindset going into every play, every game. So I just really think that the physicality of that really helps us win games and helps me play to the top of my ability.
Okay, and then for Ben, I want to ask you a little bit about as far as just the physical nature of the defense and how it's been always a physical brand of ball that this program has played for as long as I've been around it and for as long as it's been run. But as far as maybe that 3 turnover sequence against Richland sparked something different from this defense in terms of can you sense how that whole game changed the way you guys just play overall?
Yeah, I mean, hitting people over and over again, they don't like it. And I think that quarterback was getting pretty sick of getting hit like that every time. And everyone on our defense loves to hit. I mean, hell, we even smoked each other sometimes. Yeah. But, yeah, no one likes going against it. And I'm really proud of all our defensive guys for going up and doing their job and doing it the best they can.
Okay, so for this team, of course, these last 3 weeks against Azle, Denton, and, of course, this past Friday against Chisholm Trail, you pretty much have had the second half off, or at least finished, or at least played until deep into the second quarter before you had the rest of the game off. What's been the thing about for you guys dealing with this? And Aledo has gone through this for many, many years where they've been involved in a lot of games like this. But for you guys and just for your teammates, staying sharp, making sure that because you know that you're going to have a full game to play at some point down the way in this playoff run. But what's been helpful for you guys to stay sharp so that you don't lose that edge, even though you're not playing pretty much you're only playing half the game actually?
I think it's our watching film the next day. We're still, even when we're not in, we're watching what our backups did and what they did wrong. And I think that helps us a lot because it just really gets us to the point where we can learn off of their mistakes.
Okay, and then for Kaydon, for you?
Yes, sir. So going off what Ben said, just watching the game, even if we're not in, when our backups are in also, but just knowing that even if it's not the best team we'll play, that staying locked in and keyed in on the game is going to prepare us better for next week. So we can't lose focus during games that end up in a blowout. We just got to stay focused and stay hungry for the next team.
Yeah, this is something that I brought up with Coach Jones about. It's maybe not so much playing to the opponent as it is playing to a standard. Do you agree with that, Ben?
Yeah, it's definitely playing to a standard. We're held at a high standard here at Aledo, and we all love to uphold it. So.
All right, and then for you, Kaydon?
Yes, sir. We have a really high standard at Aledo, and it just keeps all of us accountable. And we just grew up with it, so I guess that every play we're gonna outwork the person in front of us, and then even in the weight room, we're gonna try to outwork our own teammates just to make each other better and stuff like that. So I really think that gives us a big edge.
Ben, I want to ask you, even though you technically played one final home game at Tim Buchanan Stadium this past Friday, but senior night, you had the rushing touchdown there against Denton High. What did that mean to you?
It meant a lot. It's my last, one of my last games there. I was proud to get it in one of the first touchdowns, but I don't know. Other than that, I've just been worried about looking at the next game and getting my defense ready to go for playoffs.
Okay. Let's take a look at as far as getting ready for Abilene this coming Friday down in Mansfield. What's the challenge that their offense presents? They've got a pretty good running game situation there, maybe not so much from their quarterback, but what do you see from them offensively that presents a challenge for you guys?
It's our outside linebackers, and we're going to have to start filling A gap instead of just our Bs and normally holding and stuff. They have 2 fullbacks, and they like to motion a lot, and we got to get on the same page with our DNs and know the calls and the checks, and we're just trying to figure that all out. And today we were doing a pretty good job with it, so I think we should be good to go.
It's kind of like, how do I not pay attention to or disregard to some extent all the window dressing, all these guys shifting and running around when you have to say on the – and again, without revealing any secrets, is there some things that Coach McCone worked with you guys in Monday's practice that kind of helped you look at that? Again, no secrets here, so we don't want to get that out on tape. So.
Yeah, he definitely shows us everything. He shows us what they like to do a lot, and he studies film like religion. He watches it even when he's at his house. Mm-hmm. So he knows everything that's going to happen, and he makes sure we all know and we're all ready to go, and that we all have everything down. All
right, and then Kaydon, for you, for their defense, even though they've had some issues defensively this year, it doesn't matter what they've done previously. All what matters is what's going to happen on Friday.
Yes,
so
sir.
What's the challenge that their defense presents?
They have a really good safety on the right side that should be guarding me. But other than that, I think we'll be prepared, and I think our offense will go out there and give y'all a show.
All right, sounds good. Okay, now recruiting-wise, of course, Ben, I don't know what's going on with you lately here. Are you still talking to schools? Do you still want to try and play at the next level? What's kind of your thinking at this point in time?
Yeah, I'm still looking around. I have smaller schools looking at me, but I'm definitely going to try and play some college football. So.
All right. Okay. I'm very happy to hear that for you, because someone will really get a good one from you no matter what level of ball it is. And then, Kaydon, you said that you're taking some time off from visiting these schools over the weekends, that sort of thing. But have things kind of slowed down for you, or has it just been equally as intense where you kind of have to shut off your phone because everyone wants to hit you up one way or the other about something here or there?
Yes, sir. So after the season started, my recruitment has ramped up like rapidly. So during the season, I just try to shut that out kind of, and just like right now, I'm not even going on any visits for a couple of weeks right now, just to focus on the games ahead. So yes, sir. So
it kind of gets old after a while.
Yes, sir.
It?
But it's still a blessing to me,
for sure,
and it's a great opportunity to expand my game to the next level.
Okay, final question for you guys. Let's start with you, Ben. What do you think, if there's been one common denominator, if you will, for this team, could be just for the defense, but if there's been one common denominator for this team in these first 11 games, rather, what do you think it's been?
We keep pushing, even when we're down. I've seen it in our offense, and I've seen it in our defense, and we don't give up. You can come at us with everything you have. We're going to come right back at you.
Okay, Kaydon, for you?
Yes, sir. I just think the offense and the defense, the whole team, I just think that we have fun with the game of football. So whatever's thrown at us, we'll have fun conquering it. We'll do anything in our power to overcome that challenge and at the end of the day win the game.
All right. And of course, I lied because I did want to ask you one more question about just those 2 comeback wins against Ryan and Richland. What do you think you all learned as a unit? Because these were sizable deficits. These weren't, touchdowns. It was 19 to Ryan, and it was 14 twice on 2 different occasions to Richland. So what did you think you all learned about yourselves and your resolve? And, you said not give up, that sort of thing. But what did you learn about that, Ben?
We learned that we can come back from being down, and I really liked that we learned that. And I think never take an opponent lightly. I think we did that against Richland, and it really took us by surprise. But like I said, again, we can come back from that, and that's a good thing to know and be able to know in the playoffs especially.
And then for you, Kaydon.
Yes, sir. It's just I think a lot of guys stepped up in a leadership role. And if we didn't have leaders on the team, I think that it would be a different story. But also just the confidence level coming out of halftime for both of those games. I just think coming out of the second quarter and then coming into the third quarter, it was a whole different team on the field. So just the confidence level and the leadership we have on this team is unmatched.
All right, guys, thanks for being with us. To my far left is Ben McElree. He has the 2 touchdowns. To my immediate left is Kaydon Finley. He has 16. Last question, you think you can catch him?
Nah. I think I'm out of reach.
All right. Let's give these gentlemen a nice hand for joining us here tonight. And we want to remind you that this podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats with expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training. H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And Hiley Mazda, looking for a new ride? Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth has you covered. Right now, get $3,500 off MSRP or 0% interest for 36 months on the 5-star safety rated CX-5 and CX-30. Hurry in, these offers won't last long. Check out the extensive Mazda lineup at HileyMazdaofFortWorth.com. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family owned and operated for over 30 years. One reminder, too, if you're listening to this podcast on Tuesday or if you were catching it during the week, that we should give a shout out to the volleyball team because they were playing in the 5A Division I state semifinals on Tuesday, a 4 o'clock start at the Colwell Center in Garland. They were playing McKinney North, and if Claire Gay's team did win that, they would advance to the state championship game this coming Saturday at 2 o'clock start, also at the Colwell Center. They would get either College Station or Flower Bluff, but nonetheless, congratulations to the Lady Cat volleyball squad for having an outstanding season. They had a huge week last week with 2 big wins over Amarillo and Colleyville Heritage, and we should bring you up to speed for next week's podcast, where we will be joined by Coach Jones and other players reviewing the Abilene game and hoping to look ahead to the regional semifinal matchup with either Saginaw or Amarillo Tascosa. But we will also be joined by Claire Gay and a member or two of the Lady Cat volleyball squad. So until next week, don't forget the Bearcats on the air on Friday, 6:30 kickoff on Hank FM with the pregame show, and then 7 o'clock we get started with the Bearcats and the Abilene Eagles. We'll talk to you all next week. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, with Bearcats head coach Robby Jones and the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 from Bourrées of New Orleans in Hudson Oaks. And then listen to every Aledo Bearcats game, home and away, live on Real Country 92.1 Hank FM, on the free 92.1 Hank FM app, or online at 921hankfm.com.